Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS Report. It is Wednesday, March 26th. Hope everyone's having a fine Wednesday afternoon. Zach, we have what I thought was potentially the worst four-game slate possible on Monday. Now we've got tonight's four-game slate, which I think might top it. I would say that if Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl were healthy, at least this slate would be somewhat fun. Without Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, this feels a lot like Monday.
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, in terms of four-game slates of NHL teams, boy, they certainly got 8 NHL teams here tonight. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. A couple spots where some teams look pretty good, but some numbers haven't been great for them as of late. Like, I don't know how the hell this slate's going to turn out. But let's see if we can find some edges for everybody. I know we were certainly helping a certain somebody last night with a whole bunch of money.
Yeah, I wish that somebody was me, but it was actually Discord user Swert53 with the, you can't even see it. Let's make it smaller. There it is, $50,000 takedown last night. St. Louis 1, Toronto 2, with Vince Dunn, Cam Fowler, Anton Forsberg to win $50,000 with Anton Forsberg, who is almost an anchor for him. Pretty impressive. So congratulations to Swert. He's actually here. We got Josh Sporting. Hello, boys. He's here. Welcome in. Massive takedown. We've had some huge takedowns in the Discord this year. So if you haven't joined the Discord yet, be sure to do so. And just a reminder that everything you see on today's show is 100% free. So if you're new because you saw that we had a $50,000 takedown last night, welcome in. It's 100% free. We're happy to kind of just continue to bring this to you for free. You can help us out by smashing that like button, help us grow this show. The charts are always available Monday through Friday. So yeah, really, really happy to see another Discord member just absolutely nuke a slate last night. Tremendous stuff. Hopefully we can crown another winner tonight. This slate starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We've got Spencer Knight getting a nod for the Chicago Blackhawks. Will be Jacob Markstrom for the New Jersey Devils. Ilya Sorokin starts for the New York Islanders. Will be Thatcher Demko again for the Vancouver Canucks. The shorthanded Edmonton Oilers will go with Stuart Skinner. Between the pipes will be Jake Oettinger for the Dallas Stars. And then John Gibson gets a nod for the Ducks. It'll be most likely Jonas Korpisalo for the Boston Bruins. Those are your 8 starting goalies for tonight's 4-gamer. Just a beautiful, beautiful slate of hockey. The Chicago Blackhawks 2.4 implied total, the largest underdogs on the slate. The Devils the biggest favorites at -210, 3.5 implied total. Before we dive right in here, I just want to bring up the New Jersey Devils line combinations because they are a total guess. We have no Cody Glass tonight. So they did not run formal lines this morning. The beat reporters have no idea what the lineup is going to look like. So this was my best guess. I would imagine that Eric Howla, who had been playing in the top 6 as a winger, moves back to the middle. I imagine Dawson Mercer will be the guy that gets elevated to play the second line center role. I move Steph Nation back up with Hischier and Meyer just because that's the line that has the most minutes together available in this current lineup. So I think that makes a lot of sense there as well. But I think one thing's for certain, Nico Hischier, Timo Meyer are going to be together, regardless of who that other winger is. We shall see. But good matchup for New Jersey 1, really good matchup for New Jersey 2 as well. So I think New Jersey 2, Jesper Bratt specifically, is somebody that's going to be super interesting tonight. But without knowing exactly what that line is going to look like, it becomes a little bit more difficult. We haven't seen a whole heck of a lot out of Dawson Mercer as of late, but he continues to stay on that top power play unit as well. So if it is Mercer that gets elevated, you've got Jesper Bratt, Dawson Mercer there together on the top power play unit. You've got Nico Hischier, Timo Meyer together on that top power play unit. Is the power play unit with the number one advantage of the night tonight. Their power play has been really, really good. 7th best over the last 10 games. It's the best power play on tonight's slate. The Blackhawks penalty kill, to their credit, has been solid, but they still take a healthy amount of penalties. So number one power play advantage tonight for the New Jersey Devils. Really like both these top 2 lines. I think we've talked about it quite a bit, Zach, that New Jersey 1 feels like the line that has by far and away the highest upside of this group. But, when it was Cody Glass and Jesper Bratt, Glass was providing plenty of, salary relief and some roster flexibility. Dawson Mercer will do something similar tonight at $4,800. Jesper Bratt up to $7,300. Nico Hischier, Meyer, both very expensive, but both very, very strong plays tonight, in my opinion. If Nation's up on that top line, I think he's obviously a decent option, just under $5K as well. So this entire New Jersey top 6 is certainly interesting to me. The Blackhawks, we saw Spencer Knight come out flying out of the gates in his first few games for the Blackhawks, but it's certainly kind of settled into life as a Chicago Blackhawk here as of late. And I know I specifically have plenty of interest in the Devils tonight. Before I get to you, I just want to bring up the team trends chart. The offense here for the Devils has struggled a little bit at 5v5. So, I wouldn't be like 100% New Jersey 1 and 2 tonight. I think there's some other really good options on the slate as well. But they look like they're in a good spot going up against the Blackhawks team that's just giving up oodles of goals at 5v5. And then the Devils have really been kind of just power play merchants as of late, just relying heavily on that power play to get the offense going. So, number one power play advantage, I think that's a route to which they could certainly continue to find success tonight. And if they find anything at 5v5, it would be a bonus. What are your thoughts here on New Jersey?
Yeah, I mean, they look like they're in a great spot here tonight for sure. It kind of goes without saying, right? They're seeing a great chunk of ownership here. I'm certainly going to be getting there here on this New Jersey Devils side of things. Maybe a little bit of pause there just because of the, potential for some new look lines and stuff like that. But yeah, Hischier and Meier seem like the absolute route to go here for the New Jersey Devils here tonight. I got a lot of interest in getting to these guys. They look like they're in a great spot here. Obviously a strong power play matchup for them here with the number one power play matchup on the slate here, even going up against a Chicago Blackhawks penalty kill that's been pretty solid here, all things considering as of late. The Blackhawks may be finding themselves in a little bit more penalty trouble than they had as of late here. But, you're getting Hischier and Meier on that top power play unit. I think that's a great route to build around here tonight. If you are going that route, you just have to be aware of the fact that they're seeing a boatload of ownership here tonight. Definitely two of the higher owned players on the entire slate. This Devils top line is the highest owned line on the slate tonight too. So if you're going to build around them, just make sure you find yourself some ways to get different here on this slate tonight. I know I'm certainly going to be getting different on this slate tonight. I'm going to have some lineups that are kind of all in on the Devils and some that are totally fading them here. It feels like on a slate like this, like, I don't know, it just with these 8 teams here, it feels like a total mess. I think that's kind of the best way to put it in terms of potential outcomes here. The Devils really nothing to play for here, pretty much all locked up their playoff spot. The Chicago Blackhawks just counting down the days until Pat Maroon's retirement and the end of their regular season here. So should be an interesting game. I think from the Devils perspective, I got more interest in that top line than I think that second line.
Yeah, sorry, I was just building another chart here while we're live. But I would agree with you. I think, like I said, the upside for New Jersey 1 definitely feels a little bit higher. You do get a little bit of lower ownership on New Jersey 2. Jesper Bratt's been just phenomenal. I'm not against the New Jersey power play stack either, right? Nico Hischier, Timo Meier, and Jesper Bratt all in the same lineup. Maybe Luke Hughes in that lineup as well, and just kind of onslaught the Devils tonight with that power play, and hopefully it can continue to find success. On the Chicago Blackhawks side of things, like Jacob Markstrom not playing very well right now. 1-4-1 in his last 6 starts. He's given up at least 3 goals in 6 consecutive games. He has an .830 save percentage during that stretch. So matchup-wise, it's not really ideal for the Chicago Blackhawks, but the top 2 lines do have fairly solid offensive metrics as of late. Now, granted, not really a whole lot going on here at 5v5, not all that surprising. Their power play has been pretty solid. I mean, getting fairly fortunate, shooting nearly 30%, but the power play matchup, not the worst. It's 5th best out of 8 tonight, so it's okay. I think that the Chicago Blackhawks are kind of an interesting team to target tonight if you are trying to get a little bit different. Not really seeing that much ownership at all. Chicago 1 grades it as the 5th best line for us tonight at just $16,300. And that is the 13th highest owned line on the slate. So you could definitely find some leverage here on Chicago tonight. I think obviously we know Ryan Donato cooling off a little bit. Obviously was just scorching hot there prior to the trade deadline. And then, Frank Nazar has been fine. Nothing really to speak of there. Like, he would be the one that I leave off, but at 4K is a decent center option if you're looking for salary relief. And then Connor Bedard down to $6,600. We know what kind of game he has when he's at his best. Not always been his best this season, but he's certainly capable of racking up shots, putting up a big night tonight against a goaltender that has been struggling. So, again, we talked about this a lot. If I'm building a single lineup tonight, Chicago 1 probably not the route that I'm going to go, but I don't mind them to get different in a deep tournament. The Devils, as bad as the Blackhawks offense has been, the Devils haven't been very good defensively. 2.72 expected goals against per 60 at 5v5 is the second worst mark on the entire slate. And then the PK, as I mentioned, it's been solid, but not the best in the league. So I think there's an avenue here for the Blackhawks to find a little bit of success, but I don't think I'm really interested in playing anybody outside of that top line. The second line's got pretty good offensive metrics, but I liked it better when it was Teravainen and Donato together. That mini stack felt fine. I don't think I'm really going to be stacking up Teravainen, Foligno, and Mikheyev. So I'll probably just get the Chicago one a little bit. Not seeing a lot of ownership. I think they're fine to get different play.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you here. I think it'll be pretty much Chicago one or bust for me. I like the idea of that Donato Bedard mini stack. I think that's a pretty decent route to go here on this slate. In terms of the rest of the forward group for Chicago, definitely feels pretty bleak. I think there's one guy that I might have a little interest in one-offing here tonight in Tyler Bertuzzi. He's been bumped down the lineup as of late here. Definitely not providing a ton of upside or anything like that as of late. And his floor, just because of the fewer minutes that he's seeing, has kind of dropped out beneath him. The one thing that's kind of interesting, though, 18 games played against the Devils in his career, 9 goals and 22 points. He's up there on that top power play unit. Maybe he finds a way to chip in a little bit of offense here tonight. $4,100, seeing just 5% ownership. I don't mind throwing a little dart on him if I'm building a lot of lineups on this slate.
Yeah, a couple decent punt defensemen there as well, right? Alex Vlasic, $4,100, and then Artem Levshunov at $3,200. Both playing over 20 minutes a night. Levshunov's been fine. He's had some solid games. He was really good when he was minimum price, but $3,200, I can certainly get back to him. Vlasic, same thing. Over the last 10 games, Connor Bedard leads the way. Actually, him and Donato are tied 9.6 DraftKings points per game, close to 3 shots per game for each of them. So decent floors there. Bertuzzi, I will say, the ice time has started to creep back up a little bit as well, right? I think he's been around 17 minutes in his last 3 games. So it is creeping back up after he was kind of buried on the fourth line there for a bit. He had 14, 12, 11, 12, and then 16, 15 and a half, 17 and a half, 17 and a half his last 4 games. So ice time is starting to creep back up a little bit and becomes a little bit of a more viable play because of it. Second game of the night, you've got the Islanders and the Canucks. Doesn't, not a game that screams offense, but, there's some narrative here. Obviously, Bo Horvat against his former team. These two teams are really just trying to kind of stay alive, right? It is a big game for each of these teams. The Islanders are still alive. They're only 1 point back of the wild card in the East. The Canucks come in 5 points back. 5 points back of the Blues with 2 games in hand. So both firmly alive. Big game for each of them. But from a DFS perspective, maybe a little bit more bleak. You got saw you unmuted here. You got something to add?
Nope. Just was going to say, I think it's really interesting when you look at it from that playoff perspective here. Hockey Viz has Vancouver at a 22% chance of making the playoffs. The Islanders 32%. Wins in regulation would be big for either side here. For the Islanders, it would boost them up to about 41%, and for the Canucks up to about 27, 28%. So lots to play for here for both sides tonight for sure.
Absolutely. Lowest pace score of the night. Pretty bad matchups on both sides. We know that the Canucks specifically have been very, very solid defensively, very good on the PK as of late. But the Islanders, it's kind of the same thing every single time the Islanders play. We say the same thing. The top line is viable because they're playing a ton. The matchup tonight, not great. They're going to see basically 60% of their ice time against the top 6 of the Canucks, which grades out pretty well defensively, actually very well defensively. But that Islanders top line continues to play extremely well. The Islanders second line, I feel like they're not really getting there on a regular basis, but I mean, the metrics are good. They should be getting there more frequently than they are because, their underlying metrics do look really, really solid. I just want to pull up their last 10 games. So Noah Dobson leads the way for this team, 13.2 DraftKings points per game over the last 10, but then it's Bo Horvat, Anders Lee, Kyle Palmieri. So Anders Lee is the one guy from that second line that has been still getting there. But yeah, pretty tough matchups here. I don't know how much Islanders I'm going to get to. The top line grades out 6. They're seeing about 10% ownership. I think that's fair. That's kind of where I've been at with the Islanders as of late, kind of mixing them in about 10% because they have shown the ability to kind of pop off and pay off in a big way. So the salaries come up a bit. I'm not comfortable getting too carried away here, especially with as good as Vancouver's been. I'll probably take a peek. honestly, as a one-off at $5,100. I don't know how much I'm going to full stack that line. The public seems to feel the same way. Peugeot about half the ownership of Lee, and then Duclair about 1%. So I'm not in love with the Islanders. That power play still sucks. The Canucks PK has been really, really solid. So my interest comes more on the Vancouver Canucks side of things. I felt the same way the other day. I loved Pius Suter the other night. I'm going to go back to the well. He played 23 minutes that night in that game. Their matchup's pretty decent. They're going to see a lot of that Islanders second line tonight, which has done a good job limiting goals against, but for the most part, they're about average defensively. So I think Suter, DeBrusk, and Besser are fine play. I did a lot of Suter and Quinn Hughes one-offs on Monday. I'm probably going to go back to that. I guess not one-offs, but mini stack of Suter and Quinn Hughes. Suter's just such a good value. Hughes, obviously an elite ceiling, just a guy that's shooting the puck a ton. They correlate at 5v5. They correlate on the power play. I kind of like that little mini stack again tonight. You've got Suter's price coming up a hair. He's $4,100, only seeing 10% ownership. I really like him again tonight as a cheap center option. Like I said, I'll probably have like 15%, 20% Suter, maybe 10% DeBrusk and Besser, and then probably 20% of Quinn Hughes again. I really like that mini stack to save some salary tonight and still what feels like a really high ceiling as well. So I like both of them. I don't think I'm going to get to the rest of this Canucks lineup, though. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it's pretty much Vancouver one or bust. As I play an Atu Roddy one off in our DFO head to head today, $2,700. Drew in for the game or the most recent game on that third line, had a shot on goal and 2 blocks in 9 minutes of ice time. Looks to be a decent value play if you need a really cheap guy here on this slate tonight. But I do think for me, it's pretty much Vancouver one or bust. I don't think I'll get there a ton, but I like. Similar to you, I've got some interest in that mini stack, with Suter and Hughes. And I'd probably put Jake DeBrusk on there. I mean, he's the guy who's been having the most offensive success here as of late. 1.1 goals per hour over his last 20 games, 1.4 individual expected goals per hour. That's double that of Brock Besser on that top line there. And 8.2 shots on goal per hour over his last 20 games. So he's a guy who's kind of been finding his way offensively. I like that idea of going with those 3 guys in a little mini stack. I pretty much agree with the ownership here in this game. Like I'm going to be getting to a little bit of this Islanders side things as well. That top line I have some interest in. Bo Horvat, pretty interesting. 4 games played since he left the Vancouver Canucks by way of trade. 2 goals and 5 points in those games. So very clearly likes to go up against his former club. I think it's a really interesting route to go here with that top line of the Islanders. Most of my interest would be in Palmieri and Horvat there. I think Holmstrom's a decent play at $4,700, drawing just 4% ownership. So a little bit of a different spot. Including him in on that full stack. And similar to what it was the other night when the Islanders took on the Blue Jackets, like Anders Lee is kind of the guy that I got interest in from that second line there. So he's been really solid as of late, continuing to generate a really high number of individual expected goals per hour. Still struggling to capitalize on converting those, but he was able to do so against the Blue Jackets, scored a goal in that game, 7 shots on goal, 23.3 DraftKings points. So that's kind of the way that I'm looking at this game here. Really don't love these depth pieces on this Islanders side either.
Peter Porker says maybe a Garland one-off. I think Garland's always kind of in the mix as a decent one-off play, solid floor, decent offensive upside. I never mind a Garland one-off. Price-wise, though, like he's pretty similar to that top line. I probably prefer DeBrusk, but I don't mind Garland either. I think he's a fine one-off. As I mentioned the other day, Pius Suter leads the way for Vancouver Canucks forwards in terms of DraftKings points per game over his last 10 with 10. So he's been really, really good. He's got 5 goals in his last 10 games, 2.3 shots on goal per game. And if he's going to see 20+ minutes again tonight, I'm in on Pius Suter this evening. Okay, let's get to game number 3. The Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas Stars. The Oilers, despite missing Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, still have a 3.0 implied total tonight. 3.3 implied total for the Stars, -125 road favorites. When you look at the big board here, it's easy to be like, man, the Oilers look great tonight. But without McDavid and Leon, I think we can basically scratch that out. But the one thing I do want to show is that the Dallas Stars have continued to be fairly poor defensively. Not terrible, but not great. And they look awful in the charts. Now, Minnesota was able to generate a little bit against them the other night, but Ottinger shut the door for a shutout. But I think there's an opportunity here for the Oilers to find some success. And Zach, you can definitely speak about it better than I can. But Dallas doesn't grade out that well defensively. I think that is probably somewhere in the middle where I'm not going to fully buy into them being this bad defensively, but like without Heiskanen, it's been a bit of a struggle. So I'm interested in the Oilers tonight because I don't think that they're going to see a ton of ownership. They're just outrageously cheap. Edmonton one coming in as the sixth highest owned line on the slate. Nugent Hopkins specifically at $5,900 has really elevated his game without McDavid and Leon in the lineup. I like that. I'll probably still get to this Oilers power play because they're just cheap, right? Like Nuge, Hyman, Bouchard, they're not cheap, but like it's a cheaper Oilers power play stack than you're used to. I don't want to get too carried away here, obviously, with no Leon and no McDavid, but without them, it certainly opens up plenty of value here. I just wait. How much is Bouchard? $6,800. Still seeing a decent amount of ownership, but Bouchard, Hyman, and Nuge together, you got 5,900, 6,800, and what is Hyman, like 50, 67? Not super expensive, but also not super cheap either. But I really like the idea of an Oilers power play stack just to get a little bit different tonight. They're still seeing a decent amount of ownership, but I don't think it's gonna be wildly popular when it comes down to it. What are your thoughts here on the Oilers?
Yeah, I've got some interest in building around the Oilers here. I mean, I think it's a really interesting spot when you look at the slate as a whole. I thought there might be a little bit more ownership that came in on the Oilers side of things. I guess I'm not really shocked to see them where they're at right now, but it's pretty easy to kind of look at this Oilers team and figure out who you want to build around from this top six. It's Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Victor Arvidsson, Zach Hyman, and Jeff Skinner. These are the guys that are kind of been driving the bus here with Connor and Leon out of the lineup. I thought the Oilers had a really good game against the Seattle Kraken, a couple of nights ago. We're able to squeak out a win there. These two teams just met not long ago, right after the trade deadline. 5-4 win for the Edmonton Oilers they were able to pull off in Edmonton. So it seems like a pretty interesting spot here for this top line. I mean, they're continuing to grade out well. It's a pretty small sample that these guys have played together. I think it's like only 4 or 5 games here since the Oilers went up against the New York Rangers. So 4-game sample size of these 3 guys together. But the underlying metrics, especially offensively, have been really good. Obviously, they're scoring at a great clip right now. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins stepped up big in that game against Seattle, had a hat trick there. I think this is a motivated Oilers team right now, and they don't really have a ton to play for, right? The playoff spot's pretty much locked up. It looks like another match with the LA Kings in the first round of the playoffs here, but in the wake of McDavid and Draisaitl, I think there's a lot of motivation for these guys to kind of step up, and I think this is a huge game for the Oilers to do so. So I have no issue getting there. I don't mind building around this top 6 at all. And especially building around the power play. That's kind of the route that I went in our DFO head-to-head here today. I got an Oilers power play stack. So, I really like this Edmonton side of this game here. Kind of interesting to see the lineup changes here for the Stars side too.
Yeah, so I'm actually not even 100% sold on them. The majority of last game, it was Marchment with Hintz and Rantanen, Robertson with Duchesne and Granlund. They said no changes tonight, so I imagine they're going to go back to these lines. I reached out to a beat reporter to see if that was going to be the case. Did not get back to me, so I'm assuming they're going to stick with what they went to last game. It is a little bit of an interesting change. It doesn't look great on paper, though, specifically for that top line, swapping Robertson for Marchment. But I'll be completely transparent. There's obviously no real sample size of all 3 of them playing together. So it could end up being a little bit different when it kind of all, when they actually get on the ice together and we see them maybe play a few games together. We could see the sample certainly improve. The second line looks much better, obviously. Duchesne specifically has just found success with pretty much anybody this year, right? Marchment was missing some time, and then him and Seguin were still fine. And then Seguin went out, and him and Marchment were still fine. And then they did it without Granlund, and they added Granlund, and they were still good. And now, adding Jason Robertson, maybe the hottest player in the Dallas Stars, should help. So I think I'm going to end up with more interest in Dallas 2 than Dallas 1 anyway. The matchup doesn't look great, but I'm not that nervous about it. The Stars, you kind of just alluded to it. The Oilers don't have that much to play for. I wouldn't be shocked if this isn't the most motivated group in the league. I think a guy like Nuge definitely wants to show he can carry this team by himself if he had to. But I think there's a little bit more motivation here on the Dallas Stars side of things. They're basically just fighting for home ice advantage in round 1 against the Avs, and that would obviously be massive. So I think they might be a little bit more motivated. I don't know how much that really matters, but I like the Stars tonight too. When you look at the ownership, coming in. It's not really a whole lot on Dallas, which I'm pretty surprised by, right? We've seen the Oilers. I mean, even against the Seattle Kraken the other day, yes, they were able to pull out a win, but they give up 4 goals to a team that doesn't score a lot of goals. And, we know Stuart Skinner's had his fair bit of struggles as of late. I don't know. I think that the Stars are drastically underowned, in my opinion, and they're a really interesting get different spot. I think I'm going to end up with more ownership on Dallas than I am on Edmonton, and the public is the complete opposite.
Yeah, I can understand why for sure. Like, I think Dallas is a great spot to get too low owned here, specifically around that second line, which I think I agree in having a little bit more interest in. I mean, Jason Robertson just has been so great this season, and especially as of late here. His last 20 games have been tremendous. 2 goals per hour of ice time, 3.6 points, 9.3 shots on goal per hour. But like Matt Duchene has really been driving a lot of offense himself. 1.6 goals, 4.1 points per hour, 8.2 shots on goal per hour. Like, I think this has the makeup of a high scoring game here tonight between the Oilers and the Stars. Edmonton's been able to get to Jake Ottinger in the past. Stuart Skinner, he's had some real struggles throughout his career going up against the Dallas Stars as well. So I think really interesting game stack option here tonight as well. I mean, a 4-game slate, it's pretty easy to get yourself different with like an Edmonton 1, Dallas 2 stack. Get a lot of exposure to ice time in that game, considering they're only going head to head about 26, 27% of the ice time. So I don't mind that route whatsoever here. The matchup scores obviously aren't great for this Dallas Stars side of things tonight, but I don't know, man. It just feels to me like a high scoring game. To me, I think this is where most of my interest is coming in building around tonight, is in this Edmonton Dallas game.
I mean, when you look at the other 3 games, it's pretty easy to see, to say that this could be the highest scoring one by a long way. Obviously, if the Blackhawks are able to find some success, that game could get up there. But 5.5 implied total in Vancouver, or in the Vancouver Islanders game. 5.5 implied total in the Chicago New Jersey game. 6 implied total just got there. It's 5.5 still in some books in Anaheim, Boston, and then this would technically be the highest total game of the night. So without seeing that much ownership coming on Dallas, I think that they're in a really intriguing spot. We know how good that power play has been too this year. They've kind of hit a bit of a slump. This team as a whole has been slumping a little bit as of late. The offense has fallen off a little bit, so I can see maybe why people aren't paying the premium price for them. But we know how good this power play was, a couple of weeks ago, literally the best in the league. So I'm happy to get back to that power play as well. I'll probably have a little bit of every one of these lines, but Dallas 2. Specifically, as long as line rushes started, warm-ups, and Robo's still there, has more of my interest. Any final thoughts on your Oilers or the Stars game before we move on to the last game of the night?
No, let's move it on to Anaheim, Boston here.
Ooh, a riveting game here between the Ducks and the Bruins. The Bruins and the Ducks, actually, both different looking lines as of late. Hushadinov up with Middlestad and David Pastrnak, so no more Geeky, Zaka, Pastrnak. It'll be Geeky, Zaka, Fabian Lysel. Then you've got Kepke with Lindell and Lettieri on the third line. The Anaheim Ducks going a little bit different as well. You still got Vetrano, Strome, Terry together. Still got Gotik with Carlson and Killorn, Nestorenko, McTavish, Zegras. A little bit of change on the fourth line. The change in the fourth line happened right before we went live, so I was unable to update the chart. We also have Pavel Minnikov back in on the blue line for Oliver Shillington. That's not updated in the charts yet either. But honestly, this game looks pretty bleak. Let's just get into it. Like, the matchups here for Boston look amazing, but these underlying metrics for Boston are horrific. I mean, they're so bad. They're so bad. So I don't really know what to do with the Bruins tonight. Like, they are generating 1.73 expected goals forward per 60 at 5v5. The power play is 1.94 goals forward per 60 over their last 10. I mean, they're not scoring. So as good as this matchup looks, John Gibson between the pipes. I want to get to Boston. I really do. I think it makes sense, but I don't know what to do outside of David Pastrnak. So, could you stack this top line? Hushadinov, Middlestad, and Pastrnak? I think so. They're going to see a lot of ownership. They're super cheap, though. So, I guess they're worth taking the dart throw. If any line that looks reasonably good offensively, it's that one. Hushadinov, basically no floor to speak of. Middlestad, same thing. So, It's not the safest play on the slate, but I do think there's some upside there with this good matchup. And obviously David Pastrnak can do, you know, do what he does all the time. Trusting Boston to score versus trusting Anaheim to defend. Yeah, it's kind of rock meat hard place here. So I feel fine, honestly, like with Pastrnak, obviously. The rest of that line, I'll probably have them in like a third of the lineups that I have Pastrnak. Like he feels still like more of a one-off play. I don't know if I can really get to that second line. They're seeing a decent amount of ownership. Obviously, Geeky and Zach have been great, but without Pastrnak, I just don't know if they get there. Like Fabian Lysell is like obviously a solid prospect, but he hasn't really done anything at the NHL level yet that makes me be like, yeah, let's go tonight. Tonight's the night. Like maybe it is because he's only played 3 games, but still only 11 goals, 23 assists in the AHL this season. I don't know how much I trust him to really be a game breaker in this matchup, especially, with a decent chunk of ownership coming in on Boston too. So yeah, I think I'm going to come in under the field on Boston as a whole. Pastrnak, though, I probably will still have a healthy amount of ownership at $8,600. I think it's pretty easy to still get to him. So, what are your thoughts? Because like this game is so bizarre to me. Like I have more interest on the Anaheim side of things, and I don't even know if that's the right play.
I mean, I think for me, the play that I'm going with here tonight on this game is just fading it. And it sounds kind of crazy because you're fading like a hell of a lot of ownership here coming in on this game. But like, I kind of agree. Like I have a really hard time identifying any spots that really feel great. I mean, like things can grade out well here, but like, just a couple of days ago, Boston went up against the San Jose Sharks and were absolutely lifeless against them. I have a hard time seeing either of these teams really getting up for this game tonight. David Pastrnak, I think, is a fine play. Definitely a guy that I've got interest in. I mean, Mason Lohrei on the blue line, he's grading out as a really solid value option tonight. So I think for me, from this Boston side, I'm pretty much just going to keep it to Pasta and Lohrei and hope that it just doesn't completely bite me. I feel better about getting to the Oilers and the Stars than I feel getting to the Ducks and the Bruins here tonight. Anaheim, it's the same thing as always for me, man. Like I just struggle to get there and feel great about it on a consistent basis. Like I think some of these pieces on this Anaheim side are fine. Vetrano, he looks okay up on that top line, good floor with his shot volume. I don't mind getting to some Cutter Gauthier at like 5K as a one-off or something like that. 10.8 shots on goal per hour over his last 20 games. Mason McTavish, like he looks okay as well as kind of a bit of a pivot option. Like Nestorenko, he's had a couple of good games here. I don't know, man. I just don't feel confident enough to build here around this Anaheim or this Boston side of this game. Like I'm playing pretty limited lineups tonight. Really kind of keeping it low key on the slate tonight. So I think for me, I'm willing to just take the risk on this slate and kind of just fade this game and hope that I'm right on it. So because again, I just don't really feel like I can have a lot of confidence in either of these sides.
Yeah, like the Ducks obviously look decent offensively. The Bruins not great defensively. The Ducks power play sucks though, so like there's not a ton of upside. Matchups though are okay for the top line and for the third line. I think the third line piques my interest a little bit. Really good offensive metrics, really not all that expensive. They get out 7th best, not seeing a ton of ownership, mostly none on Nestorenko. But McTavish at 5,200 and Zegras, he scored in back-to-back games at 4,500. Like that would be a route that I think I could get to in this game. But yeah, like a ton of ownership coming in on Anaheim 1. Like I think they're fine, but we've talked about it. Like how many times have we been like, yeah, I'll play Anaheim 1 when they're not chalky, and then when they are chalky, just fade because it just doesn't feel like good chalk. So Jim kind of brings it up here. I would rather get to Dallas. And I feel similarly. Like this game, if it does bite us, I think that's fine. Like it is John Gibson versus Jonas Korpisalo. Neither have been all that spectacular. There is some offensive weapons in this game. I agree with this one though too. Like it's a coin flip with the Bruins right now. Like they're kind of just don't seem to give a shit, and these new line combinations don't really inspire much confidence. And even David Pastrnak has not been himself. He's got 2 goals in his last 10 games. He has, where did it go? I lost it. I think he's only averaging like 10 DraftKings points per game.
12.1 over his last 10.
Yeah, so like he's been fine. The shot volume's still good. He's racking up assists, but the goals haven't really been coming. So it's just like I would rather pay up, I think, for the New Jersey Devils, the Stars, and the Oilers. More so the Devils and the Stars, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't love this game as a whole. I think I'm going to end up with more Anaheim than Boston. Sprinkle in some pasta. Maybe some of these value options on the Bruins side. Any final thoughts? Nikita in a prime spot. Yeah, I don't mind Nestorenko with McTavish and Zegras. He's got some game. Haven't seen a lot from him, yet. But I think he's there at $3,800 as a guy that's pretty interesting. 3 shots on goal his last game in just 10 minutes. 2 shots on goal with a goal before that. And he scored a game before that as well. So 2 of his last 3 games he scored in a decent spot there with the third line. How do you feel about Dallas going back to Robo on the top line? Like I think it's definitely possible. I just don't know if it's likely. Like I hate when they just say same lineup tonight without like providing any context. So it's hard to say. Like I think it's going to be Marchment. Like if I was a betting man, which I am, I'll say Marchment on the top line tonight, Robo on the second line to start. Any final thoughts on the forwards, the stacks, anything like that before we move on to the defensemen and the goaltenders?
No, let's talk some blue liners.
I am still building our DFO head-to-head lineup right now, so you're probably going to win because I'm doing my best here to build something. But okay, let's get to the blue liners. As you mentioned, this is not the right thing. Let's size it up a little bit better. So value here. We talked about Mike Riley on Monday's show. He was a fantastic play. I'm going to go back to him without question tonight. He had 4 shots, 2 blocks. Would have been the second game in a row. He hit the block bonus. He would have got 1 more. Almost hit the shot bonus. He only played 11 minutes, but when he's on the ice, it's literally, just doesn't stop. Adam Boquist was a 7th defenseman in that game, kind of played some wing as well. He's out tonight, so there might be a little bit more of a traditional 6th defenseman look tonight. Should see a little bit more ice time. But like even with 12 minutes projected, he still looks like one of the best value defensemen on the slate. Does see some power play time tonight too. So I'm going to get back to him. You mentioned Lowry, Lacombe, I think are both good options in that game, despite it being kind of gross. Wallman's been solid. For the Oilers, Brett Pesce, $4,300, I think is fine against the Blackhawks tonight. Where else can we go here that looks appetizing? Levshunov, definitely. Vlasic, definitely. Oh, boy. That's probably it for me. The rest of this is pretty gross. Maybe some Simon Nemec at minimum price if I had to. And then paying up, obviously, I love getting to Quinn Hughes. I'd play Quinn Hughes over Bouchard, but I don't mind Bouchard either. I love Luke Hughes at $5,300. Nurse on a bit of a heater. I love Thomas Harley in that game. That power play can hopefully get back going. Who do you got pegged tonight on the blue line?
I think you covered most of them off pretty good. Like I got no issue paying up here for some of these Oilers defensemen. I think those are some fine guys to mix into your lineups tonight. The cheap guys for me, Mike Riley at $3K looks solid. Lucas Crevier at $2,800 if you need to get down sub $3K. Drew Hellison's probably okay. Lev Shunov, I think he's an interesting play here tonight as well. Mason Lowry, Jackson Lacombe, both grading out pretty well in terms of value projections as well tonight. So that's probably where I'm going to be sticking with most of my blue line ownership.
In terms of ownership, who is everybody playing? Mason Lowry, highest projected owned defenseman. Lev Shunov, second. Zellweger, third. Yeah, Zellweger's back on top power play unit. He'd be a fine play too. Lacombe as well. And then just a couple Hugheses, a couple Nurses. Yeah, pretty much everybody we talked about seeing ownership tonight. We haven't found too many good cheap defensemen tonight that aren't seeing ownership other than Mike Riley at 0.3%. Between the pipes, Jake Ottinger grades out the best. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that. I also don't know how. Like I like Ottinger tonight, $7,800. I think that's a fine option. Basically priced as if McDavid and Leon were still in the lineup, so I think that's a pretty good play. He's projected to be the highest owned goalie of the night. I don't know how much I trust Markstrom, despite it being a pretty good matchup at $8,200. He's just been so bad lately. I just don't know how much I'm actually going to get there. Sorokin and Demko, I think both make a lot of sense. It should be a medium-paced game. Both project to see 27 shots on goal, so I think they're both fine. I probably lean Demko just because he's a little bit cheaper. No interest in Gibson, really. Korpisalo, you could talk me into it at $7,400. Probably not going to get to any Skinner night tonight. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Ottinger's an okay play, just seeing a lot of ownership there, and I do feel good about the Oilers side. So don't know if I'll get up to 20% on him. Demko, Sorokin, I think they're interesting plays. For me, I don't mind getting down to this Spencer Knight at $7,200. See if you can bust up some of that New Jersey Devils chalk here tonight. Don't feel great about the goaltenders on this slate necessarily, and just going to kind of depend on which players I have in my lineups and try and find a goalie that correlates with that.
Yeah, I just saw that you have the Spencer Knight between the pipes in our daily face-off, our head-to-head lineup challenge, because I'm putting it together as we speak. I mean, we're just a really professional show here. We do a good job, but sometimes I also just leave everything to the last minute. So let's get to today's hat trick pick challenge before we get to today's head-to-head. I have time to put the graphic together. Nichushkin almost had a hat trick yesterday. Jack Eichel did have a hat trick, didn't he?
I think he did, yeah.
Did we have anybody pick Jack Eichel? I didn't even look. I honestly forgot to look. Let's take a look right now at yesterday's hat trick pick challenge picks. That was the 25th. We had Jarvis, Gensel, Suzuki, Yanni Newman, Kyle Connor, Blake, Netchas, Nelson, McKinnon. So we did not have a hat trick pick winner, which means we will raffle it off. I totally forgot about it, so we'll raffle it off on tomorrow's show. I won yesterday's head-to-head, so I will go first. My hat trick pick for tonight is give me Timo Meier. Why not?
I like it. Let's stick with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Back-to-back hatties for the big man.
I mean, that would be the first time in his career, right? You'd have to imagine. Okay, let's get to today's daily face-off, our head-to-head lineup challenge. I forgot, because I just built it live on air, to edit the record. But I'm actually up 42-37. I've taken a 5-game lead now. We still need to figure out what this punishment is going to be for poor Zach, because it's looking more and more likely by the day. And tonight, I mean, this one could be over instantly. If the New Jersey Devil chalk smashes, Spencer Knight's dead, and I'm going to dominate. But I went with Mercer, Meyer, Bratt, just because it was, way easier to get to Mercer than it was to Heischer. Then I went with that Suter, Quinn Hughes mini stack that I talked about. Mike Riley on the blue line as a salary saver. Nestorenko, Trevor Zegras mini stack. I would have preferred going with Nestorenko and McTavish, but Zegras is fine. And then Ottinger at $7,800. So our lineups couldn't possibly be any more different. It's going to be an interesting one tonight.
Legitimately polar opposites here tonight. I mean, you got the Devils stack, I got Spencer Knight, I got the Oilers stack, you got Jake Ottinger. Going to be a really interesting sweat here tonight for the two of us. I mentioned liking the Edmonton Oilers here, so we got Nugent Hopkins, Arvidsson, Hyman, Bouchard. Needed a sub 3K guy. Punishment walk from Edmonton to Calgary. Listen, Mar Sharks, I just bought a walking pad for my place, and I went on like a 30-minute walk this morning, and I was absolutely fucking cooked. So I think I was dead by the time I got down about 3 blocks from where I live in Edmonton.
Oh, no, you can make it to Calgary. I love that one. At least you didn't say from where you live to where I live.
Oh, my God. Just the thought of that is scaring the hell out of me. I'd rather do the shoey. I'd do 2 shoeys before I walk from Edmonton to Calgary. Nonetheless, so like this Edmonton stack here tonight, Kasperi Kapanen kind of needed a sub $2,900 guy on the wing, just some correlation with Zach Hyman on the second Oilers line. Atu Roddy, real punt guy at $2,700 up the middle. Evan Bouchard for that power play correlation, got Mason Lowry and a David Pasternak mini stack.
Just doing some research here for you.
It
would take 69 hours, just 3 days if you walk nonstop. Not interested?
No.
All right. I liked the idea, but moving on. All right. That's going to do it for this edition of the DFS Report. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love that idea, Mar Sharks. He says no, though. So if you got any punishment ideas for most likely Zach, could still be me. You could get hot. I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch here, but let's get into shout out to rotogrinders.com for providing projected ownership for today's show. If you want to get $20 off your first month of RotoGrinders Premium, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of the video on YouTube. Doesn't have to be NHL Premium either. You can do any of their premium packages. With MLB coming up, if you want to get into that, you get $20 off your first month at RotoGrinders. So shout out to them. Also, if you want to join the DFS Discord, obviously, we've had some huge winners in there as well, bouncing ideas off of each other, providing all the late breaking news as well. So if you missed it off the top of the show, we had a $50,000 winner in the Discord last night. Unbelievable stuff. Hopefully we can get another one tonight. Maybe not 50,000, but another big winner. And yeah, that link is also in the description of the video on YouTube. So I'm Brock Seguin. Got Zach Laing here as well. We'll see you guys back here same time, same place tomorrow. Until then, cheers.